This is The City Eternal, Chapter 7, Prisoner. It was still dark when I woke up. I had not been asleep but for a moon's turning. I heard all of the animals again, just as loudly as the day before. The night drug on. I did not rest much. Aside from my anxiety being heightened by the venom and my mistrust of the Queen, I worried about the future. Was my mind going to be like this forever? Perpetually on high alert? Open to everything? I certainly hope not. It was terrifying, and so I just sat, for the most huddled for most of the night, ruminating until the sun came. And when the sun began to rise, the Queen came in with a guard, a round man with a stern, unchanging expression. She placed a plate of beautifully arranged fruit and undid the locket around her neck, which held the venom. My head still hurts from yesterday, I said. I didn't tell her I was still hearing the animals. She smiled and said, I am sorry, but this is how it must be done. All of the forest depends on you. You are quite a strong seer and whisperer. We only have so many days before the harvest of plenty, and we need to be ready. She put another 3 drops of venom on my tongue, the same as yesterday, and just like yesterday, my entire world shifted. Actually, the shift may have been even stronger than yesterday. I felt dizzy and nauseous. I think the Queen noticed my strong reaction because she said to the guard, We may have to decrease his dosage slightly. More has been unlocked than I previously expected. I heard the birds chattering, mostly about food and sex, and territorial disputes, and I heard worms chanting their digging and eating chants that I recognized from the day before, and I heard the Queen's thoughts. They were as clear as day as if she was speaking them. She seemed to say, I hope he's not like his mother, trying to escape to the other nation. Why would I want to do that? I blurted out. Do what? Do what? She asked, eyeing me carefully. Nothing. My apologize. I'm still getting used to things, I said. She smiled but sat down next to me so she could continue to watch me extremely closely. I wasn't sure if she believed me or if she was humoring me, but I tried my best to curb my inner impulses and only respond to her questions as directly and simply as possible. Her eyes bore holes through me, but I prayed that she couldn't read all of my thoughts as well as I could read hers. A lot of them didn't make sense. She was thinking about a huge glass research lab and whether or not to arm the sentries with better gear. I didn't have much time to focus on her thoughts though, because I was almost relentlessly bombarded by other noise. She asked question after question about the weather, about the harvest, about the bears and bees and raccoons and eagles, about the wild horses and turkeys and fungi and old trees. Before long, I noticed the room growing darker. It's going to be a true festival of plenty, not just a harvest of plenty, she told me. Thank you. She then motioned for the guard, and the guard walked out the door. She leaned over and gave me a soft kiss on the head, and then rubbed my back gently and smiled. I then heard the guard calling down the hall. Runner! And I could hear Zephyr's heavy breathing as he ran up to meet the guard. Could I see him and say hi? Zephyr asked. The guard laughed. No, he said in a low voice. Just give me the goods and be on your way. The Queen watched my face during this exchange and called back to the guard. Let him in, Azurite. Cloudy Sky needs to be rewarded for a good day's work and for being such a good servant. She stroked my back as she said this. But, the guard began to say. But nothing, the Queen said. Do as I say. We could hear the guard huffing, but he did as he was told. The guard returned along with Zephyr and a huge plate of honey, sea fruit, and various nuts. They came from the sea, Zephyr told me. I would assume sea fruit would be, I said. It's good to see you, he said, sounding choked up. It's good to see you too, I said. Why are you so upset? I'm not, he said. I'm happy for you. It's just we all thought you were dead. I'm fine, I said. Zephyr nodded. Whatever you say. Though you kind of look sickly, he said, and then he bounded over and hugged me. Remembering himself, Zephyr looked over to the guard and then, of course, the queen. I'm sorry, he said. I was just excited. She smiled her cold smile and nodded in approval, and then Zephyr waved and left. I stared at him as he ran. Don't let that food go to waste, the queen said. Most people only taste that once in their life. I thought we only needed the bare essentials here, I said. The queen laughed. Sometimes luxury is a necessity when you are doing such work, such fine work. I ate it and I knew it had a taste, and if it was any other day I would have been in ecstasy. But it was like my taste buds weren't working. I just ate mindlessly, filling the void in my stomach. I watched as the queen disappeared, as she waved her hand and the door closed up, and once more I was alone again with my thoughts for the night. I lay down on the bed, tired, but every fiber of my body unable to relax. I closed my eyes and did not sleep. I just turned and fidgeted. Amidst the tossing and turning, I saw my mother again. This time she was a little older. She was coughing a lot. She was approaching the queen, calm and confident, saying, I need to go to Alpha Nation. I know they can cure me. The queen looked at her in disbelief, then looked at the guard by her side and motioned for him to leave. When the two were alone, the queen asked, How did you know about Alpha Nation? I know because I listened. Not all birds were born on this side of the wall, she said. The queen narrowed her eyes. Trying to escape is punishable by death, she said. But the world outside can't be all that bad, my mother said. It can be, the queen said. But even if it's not, we must remain safe. You must think about Zebra Nation first and only. I'll die either way, my mother said. The queen shrugged her shoulders. I woke up after that and I slept no more that night, and pretty soon the days blurred together. I don't know how much time passed. I know I became more used to the venom, or maybe I just learned what to expect with the hallucinations and nausea. Over time, the queen became more relaxed with me. We had a daily routine of having tea, her asking questions and massaging my back. Some days she would gossip about her annoyances with her guards, and some days she would talk about things even Zebra Nation couldn't do. This piqued my interest. Like what? I said. She smiled. I'm not used to you asking questions, but I suppose a little curiosity is a good thing, she said. Besides, who are you going to tell? We can do a lot in Zebra Nation. We have all but mastered the world of biology. But we are utter primitives when it comes to technology or chemistry. Like what? I asked. Well, chemistry is creating something from raw elements. I imagine a nation that knew how to use chemistry could make any metal, any substance they wanted. They could be like alchemists, she said. And what about technology? I asked. She smiled a knowing smile. I'm just talking hypothetically here, of course, but just think how much easier our world would be if we had automatic digging machines or shovels that stayed sharp or machines that could harvest our fruits. Could this technology cure my mother's illness? I asked. Her smile suddenly froze, then fell away. Her death was her own fault, the queen said. She then tried to recompose herself, leaning in to massage my neck. I pulled away. I thought you would learn to understand me more quickly, but really, I do all that I do for the benefit of all. Besides, the harvest of plenty will soon be upon us, she said. We are all so thankful for you. She walked away and again left me locked in my prison. I sighed, listened to the distant sounds of animals, and trees and spent another sleepless night tossing, turning, and thinking. A few days later, Zephyr came again, this time with feathers and materials for a bed from mountains far north. The queen gladly waved her hand, leaving us alone as she turned her back. "You don't look so well," Zephyr said, "though it's always good to see you." I told him I wasn't eating or sleeping well. He frowned. "I wish I could help," he said. "I need to get out of here," I said. "Are you kidding?" he asked. "You're central to the harvest. It's going to be the biggest one ever. It's in a few weeks." He then leaned close to whisper, "Be careful what you say. I am sure we are being watched and listened to." I smiled. "So it is just like Hurricane said in the forest. Just stop talking then. I can hear your thoughts," I said. "Really?" he thought. "Really," I said. Zephyr smiled. "Listen, Cloud, you are my best friend. I love you, really, and I would help you, but it's a lot to ask. Me and Amber Rose are just starting our life together and—" "Do you love her?" I asked. "Of course," he thought. But we would be shunned if we helped you. And being shunned is a death sentence here," he thought. "I know it's a lot to ask." I looked over to the queen. She was still doing her hair and redoing her makeup. I can hear her thoughts too. "Sometimes," I said to Zephyr. "There's a lot she's hiding from us, some things she doesn't want us knowing." "Is it worth dying for, though? Sacrificing your best friend?" Zephyr thought. "There's a nation outside of Zebra," I whispered very quietly. "But do you really need to go there? Isn't it enough to help out here? I'm sure once the queen frees you, you will be happier, and we can hang out once again. You're famous now," he thought. "I will never be content here," I said. "I have to know what they are hiding from us, why they are hiding it all from us. My mother would have wanted me to." Zephyr thought, "Maybe they are just protecting us." "Listen, I need your help. Otherwise, I'm going to be a prisoner here forever," I whispered. "But I won't force you to do anything." "I'll see you in a few weeks, friend," Zephyr said and stood up. "That's it?" I asked. Zephyr smiled and winked at me. "I can't help, but I will send your message to that short round guy you used to work with." I smiled and winked at Zephyr. The queen smiled at Zephyr as he walked out the door and told me there was a bit more questioning to do. And so we talked for a few hours more. She seemed very pleased, and as she began preparing to close the room for the day, she stopped halfway through. "What are you doing?" I asked. She smiled, rubbed my shoulders, and then dropped her dress. She was completely nude. She didn't say anything. For a moment, we just stared at each other. I held her gaze. "Just thanking you for all you have done and all you will do in the future," she said, walking closer. "You are welcome," I said, "but please, I am very tired." She smiled and began closing up my room as she always did. She left me a small window so that I could see the sunset. Before she left, she turned and smiled again. "Your friend Zephyr is not going to help you. You do not want to make the same mistakes as your mother," she said. "I won't," I said. "It's sad that you don't trust people. And it's sad that you are not more thankful for what you have," she said, and she put her robe back on. I waited until I could not see her shadow in the distance anymore, and then I climbed out the window.